It had been a while since I've done a video on Chainlink, so I thought now would be a great time to update you guys on where I think that price action is heading. As I get into today's video, if you do find it useful and informative, smash that like button. If you're new, subscribe, and let's take a look at what's going on with Link. So here we have Chainlink paired up with USDT. We're on the one-day Binance chart here. And as you can kind of see, we had this low range coming in at 768 to 874. And it was a fantastic move that was hit on the 5th of August. Since then, we've had a bit of a run to the upside, a bit of a calling off, and we actually got a closed position yesterday just above the 50 EMA and 50 SMA on this daily time frame. The bad news is I don't think we're going to have the ability to continue running. Now, the initial thought process here was to kind of test out the 200 EMA. The 200 EMA is, of course, our main resistance, as you can kind of see, constantly getting smashed back down by it. But most recently, the 50 EMA and 50 SMA have also been a lot of resistance, and we're testing those right now. So looking at where we are in terms of the bigger macro picture, in terms of what's going on with the Federal Reserve, the expectation around an interest rate cut, and what the market typically does during a rate cut. And this goes all the way back to the 1970s. Every single time we've seen an interest rate cut, we've seen the market react negatively, with the stock market kind of dropping by, between kind of 30 and 50%. Now, the good news is I think the market's already trying to price it in. The bad news is that I don't think they're going to get it right. And so as we kind of find these resistances, it does mean that Chainlink is highly likely to see a decrease in price. So at the moment, on the daily time frame, we have a lower high being set here. The swing high is the 26th of August, and although we've got a couple of positive closes, yesterday was a positive close, it doesn't give me the confidence I need just yet. Relative strength index is up here, just above the 50 level. It can continue running, so there is still possible momentum available to Chainlink to continue its run to the upside, but our stochastic RSI is up in this overbought area, and it's not giving me the best indication to say that things are likely to sustain this growth to the upside. So the expectation could be a retest of our existing low at that 768 to 874. Now, if I zoom out of this just a moment, you can see this bigger yellow box area. This is actually the main accumulation zone that I have marked out for Chainlink. It's between $5 and $10.92. And we've been in here for quite a bit, right? We can see that we spent a little bit of time inside this range, and this idea of redistribution and accumulation or reaccumulation right inside this range, right? So we saw a fantastic run to the upside, okay, coming into those higher range expectations at 2287, and we've seen the calling off. Basically, what this means is institutional investors typically, in fact, I might actually let's talk about it, right? Because a lot of people don't understand Elliott wave theory in terms of how to draw it or the psychology behind it, but I'm going to just quickly explain one of the most key important things about these 5 wave structures that you see here. Okay, so a wave 1 is typically your institutions kind of buying in and pushing the price to the upside, right? This is usually seen by retail investors as a fake pump. This is then confirmed when they see the wave 2. Retail investors are like, I told you it was a fake pump. What's really going on here is that there's a little bit of distribution happening here. Retail investors are selling into this pump, and institutional investors basically come in here and they buy up the wave 2 drop because wave 1 is considered to be fake, right? So retail investors are basically selling into wave 1 as the institutions are buying up the fear, and then they basically drop the price. So retail investors force the price to come down, and institutional investors buy in the wave 2, and institutional investors create the wave 3. Retail investors are like, damn, I missed out. I must go ahead and buy the wave, the dip after the wave 3, which is typically the wave 4. So what typically happens here is you've got buying pressure happening at the low side by institutional investors, and then you've got selling pressure up here at the wave 3 after they've driven the price up higher. Institutional investors are selling the wave 3 as retail investors are buying the wave 3 and the wave 4, and then wave 5 is just retail investors. It's not the big strong move, and then basically they're trapped in their positions. So the entire thing, psychology-wise, is that institutional investors, large whale buyers, have basically bought up the wave 1s and the wave 2s, created the wave 3s and the wave 4s, and retail investors are left buying wave 4 and wave 5, right? And essentially, basically, you're holding positions. And then what happens is typically, once kind of the institutional investors are out at that upper range, is they're looking for reaccumulation, which happens down here at the wave 2. Okay, so a little bit of psychology behind everything that goes on with the 5-wave movement. And if you can understand how important 5-wave impulsive structures are, then it really does hit home with this reaccumulation, because reaccumulation essentially is the wave 2. Okay, so everything's on a bigger macro scale. 5-wave structures are essentially just nested in. So this entire yellow box area essentially is on a smaller scale, this little wave 2 area down here. Okay, and we can see what happens afterwards. It's the big wave 3. So it's important to understand that where we sit when it comes to Chainlink is that this reaccumulation area has happened before, and I'm going to just draw it in down here. It's happened down here, right? And so this is a smaller scale of what's going on here. If I zoom out of this, I'll show you what this actually looks like on a bigger macro. Is a wave 1, a wave 2, and then you have that big wave 3 into the bull market, right? So where do you want to be buying? Well, you don't want to be necessarily worrying too much about all of these kind of little mini runs and these little mini dumps that we have on the smaller time frames, if your goal is to be buying the bigger accumulative phases, because that's where Chainlink is. And sure, we might be testing out $5, but are you going to care when the price action rallies up to, $100, $150 or so, whether you're spending, $6.50 or $5 per token, right? Essentially, the price action is right where it needs to be. Now, obviously, we're not in the range right now of redistribution or accumulation, but I do think we're likely to revisit that. So the importance of understanding the 5-wave structures and Elliott wave theory from a psychology point of view can't be kind of forgotten, in my opinion. So we're right in the sweet spot for Chainlink. And Chainlink is obviously one of those assets that I think has the potential to do phenomenally well in the longer run. It might take multiple years to get there, but it's so heavily integrated into so many different ecosystems, it is going to perform so very well when we actually reach mainstream adoption. Now, real world assets, some of these RWAs that gets talked about all the time, it's in the latest narrative. We have to think about what's going to be one of the key components to that if we want to see $1 trillion, $10 trillion, $100 trillion in tokenization. Well, if we want to see that, we're going to require oracles, and if you're going to require a lot of data to go on chain in a trusted way, and that's where Chainlink really comes in. And so Chainlink is positioned very well to take a significant market share of the entire crypto space based on its model. So I think where we are right now is a phenomenal time, even for like multi-year long-term position holds, where we are looking at accumulating link tokens. So we are right in the sweet spot, and basically $5.80 to $10.92 is where I would say the value is to be had. Now, in terms of where we think things are going, you can kind of see the scale of this thing. It is an incredibly volatile asset, as you can kind of see here. You expect volatility with Chainlink because it is demand driven. More demand driven than many others. I guess the equivalent would be ETH, which is another one that is well demand driven, essentially. If we go ahead and measure our distances here, and I'm just going to have to zoom in a little bit because I can't quite grab the wicks low. So I'm going to grab that one there, and then I'm going to grab that peak up here, which is just approximate at the minute. There we go. Okay, so at the moment we have a 5-wave run to the upside, taking us from 476 to 2287. A fantastic run. Now, if we do have a drop down to $5.80, then our 1.618 target range for the wave 3 comes in here at $73.52. Okay, and I'll go ahead and approximately draw in a percentage on that. It's going to be about 1,154% just to complete a wave 3. You're going to have a little drop and then another run to the upside, which I'll hypothetically put in here. These are just approximate numbers, but it'll give you an idea as to kind of where we could potentially be looking at $120 or so. Now, it's possible, of course, that this is all just a precursor to something so much bigger, and that the wave 3 smashes past $73, and then we actually have a much bigger run to the upside. And Chainlink has the potential, in my opinion, to be, pushing into kind of, if we get to $120, we're talking about nearly 2,000% in gains. And as we kind of think about the $200 level, which I do think is a possible scenario, is 3,300%. Now, if we mirror what happened previously, okay, which is a true possibility in my opinion for Chainlink, then we could potentially be looking at Chainlink doing something absolutely insane, which would put this more towards the $600 to $2,000 level. Not saying that it's going to happen overnight, but I do think long term there's the potential for Chainlink to do phenomenally well. And so where we are is reaccumulation ahead of all of those fantastic runs to happen in 2025, in my humble opinion. But that is all it is. Obviously, I'm no financial advisor. I can't give financial advice. All I can do is share my thoughts and opinions on what is going on in the charts from a Chainlink perspective. What are your thoughts on all of this? Let me know in the comments down below, or join us in our free Discord server linked in the description. And if you haven't done so yet, guys, check out this video right here. It's not one you're going to want to miss.